So, Ghoul and Slug, Sean Spicer, is whispering that he has intimate knowledge that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is going to be gutted immediately.
On this, I have been told by reliable sources that decision is done and that the minority is slow walking the dissent, so that
Huh.
states can't. And states do not have time to redistrict ahead of it. But I have been told very reliably that the minority is slow walking that dissent.
All right, wait, hold on a second, because I don't think I've read that anywhere. That is news.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just going to say it most likely is at some point between April and late June, because I think late June is the end of the Supreme Court term. And I will only say this once in this video, that this is why it does matter to always be intentional. And I'm not so much targeting this towards like leftists and progressives, because I think that that leaves people who sat home off the hook, right? Because people will complain about their rights slowly being eroded, and then they won't vote. You're an awful person if this reaches you. You should have voted. Vote, elections have consequences, right? And so what we're seeing right now, I don't think Sean Spicer is right? I think he is just drumming up his personal brand. But I do know that, and I am guessing that at some point this is going to be gutted. Now, if you don't know what Section 2 is, Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is meant to actually protect black people's ability to actually elect a representative in the places that they lived. And if we know anything about black people in the South, the people that live there have usually been there since the beginning, right? If you're a black American who lives in the South, your family has been here in some cases since before America was an official country, and you've been here for the duration of America's history, right? A lot of people have intimate ties to some of the most important, I would say, time periods in this country's history. Like if I go into my own family's history, right? Now, I've been very bad. There are people in my family that are very good at tracking down genealogy and all that. And the official start date that we have is at least 1834, right? Where we can kind of track back to like the last slave in our family. And I think there's a person in my family, I was supposed to contact them. I feel so bad about it. Where she was able to go back to actually his mother, right? And then even to go to, I think, in some places, the origin of my family's original last name in South Carolina, right? And so this is, gutting Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is basically going to take away the right of people who have been in this country for hundreds of years to be represented in the places that they live in. Like, I still have family that lives in Georgia to this day. Now, one of the main things that Section 2 is meant to actually prevent is vote dilution, right? Because this is a favorite tactic of gerrymandering, right? You don't want your opponent to actually be able to influence elections. And they do it in two ways, right? They either pack a district, right? So they shove all black people, and I'm going to leave Hispanic people out of this just because it's black people on my mind first and foremost. They pack black people into a district to say, you can have that one representative, but you can't influence the other 5 districts. That's specifically for Louisiana, right? Louisiana wanted to pack as many black people into a particular district, even though they are 1/3 of Louisiana's population. And so basically, the courts in Louisiana said this is so racist. They're 1/3 of the population. They should be able to have the ability to affect 1/3 of the representatives in the state. And so they were forced to create a second majority minority district to reflect their population numbers, so that the results could actually be reflected in the population numbers, right? Some people are going to be like, oh, that's discriminatory. You suck if you believe in that, right? Now, the other way that they try to limit black people's ability to influence elections is by cracking the population into different sectors, right? So they're going to shove black people into different majority white districts to make sure that they can't actually effectively influence the vote in any ways. And so the Supreme Court had like a case in 1968. I don't remember the name, but essentially they do a test to make sure that this is not a reality. But when it comes to this case, Landry versus Calais, right? Basically, Louisiana said that it was illegal to have a racial remedy to racial discrimination. And this is why race neutral policies and colorblind policies suck. They're stupid. I hate them because it doesn't help the people that are negatively affected on the basis of race, right? All it does is promote a status quo of the discrimination, but you get to feel better about it because it's not, it's not like, oh, I'm not racist because we're colorblind, but you still have the same racist outcomes, right? So basically, what is basically predicted is that if this case goes to the conclusion that it most likely is because of the people that are on the Supreme Court, we're going to lose at least 12 seats, 12 to 19 seats, I think, in Congress, right? Black people, and I think there will be some Hispanic representatives that will lose representation as well. But even the more dangerous section is state, county, local, city seats that could also be affected by the ways in which racial gerrymanders will no longer be seen as illegal, right? And we're talking about like black people potentially losing 50% of the representatives that they have in state houses, right? State senates, school board seats, I'm not going to say mayor elections, school boards, all these other different local positions that have a more intimate, I would say, influence on people's lives than just like a federal representative. And so as we go on, like this could be absolutely disastrous. And there's one prominent example I have in my mind was I was listening to a Louisiana, I think, state Senate chambers session where a state senator for some majority white district in Louisiana wanted to siphon money from, I think, the judicial fund for New Orleans Parish, which has black senators, black representatives. And he wanted to siphon money from that particular district to bring to other white districts because he just wanted to, right? And the state senator, I think, that represented New Orleans or a neighboring black district brought up the point that when it comes to like actual court cases, New Orleans Parish, because of their population, deals with 4 to 5 times the amount of cases than any of the other majority white districts in Louisiana. And she asked the senator, did you talk to anyone from this particular area of Louisiana? He said no. She's like, did you do any research into how this would be justified or beneficial to the people of New Orleans and Louisiana? No, right? He just wanted to take the money. And this is why black representation is so important in the areas in which black people live in. Because if this was the good old boys network in the ways in which it used to operate, right, there would be a representative that wouldn't care, right? Because he would have his seat would be safe no matter what, because they would either pack the district or break up the district, right? And so this man is willing to defund New Orleans, I would say, judicial district, right, of the funds needed to process cases and to actually get through our judicial system just to benefit white districts. Meanwhile, without that money, they can't process cases, which means it's going to take longer, which means people would be in jail longer, which means that you would start to have a strain on the system, which would mean that you could potentially have an increase in dissatisfaction, crime, and an inability to actually prosecute people based off the crimes they commit, which will then create a doom spiral to make life just untenable for black people in that area of Louisiana. And this is what white people in this area of the world want to do, right? They want to do that all over the South, right? We're talking Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Georgia. I'll just say South Carolina, I don't know, Florida, right? All of these places that I think are very, very neglected when people want to talk about like, oh my God, if the South is suffering, that's what they deserve. You have to realize there were black people in the South that didn't vote for any of this stuff, and they're suffering all the same. And so it's going to happen at some point. Sean Spicer is trying to maybe drum up a little bit of attention to himself to say that it's imminent and it's happening now. But it was already a foregone conclusion because of the people that we have in the Supreme Court, I feel as though. And this is at the same time in which they're actually pushing for some of the older conservative Supreme Court justices to retire because they do know that the midterm election predictions are not good. So they're trying to push all of this through to make sure that they can hold on to power. So maybe you can take that as a benefit, that it is a scared mentality that's promoting a lot of this. But be aware of that. Like, remember Section 2 and kind of what is predicted to happen based off of it and some of the consequences that they're trying to enact right now. So, yeah.